Historians don't just pile facts. Any kind of interesting historical book has an internal logic to it as the author thinks about it, and there is an explanation. The problem with history is not that they don't have explanations, but that they have too many explanations. 240 explanations for the fall of the Roman Empire. All right, surely not all of them can be true, right? So what should we do? It's not built-in intuition, and our human brains are amazing structures, but we cannot model well complex dynamical systems with nonlinear feedbacks. All right, so we have to do it, and it's mathematical models. It's computational models because things are, you won't be able to do it analytically, right? Still, you don't want to complicate your model too much, obviously, but it will have to be complex enough to capture what you need to do. I have with colleagues, we have proposed building such computational models. We call it multi-path forecasting, so similar to what weathermen do. All right, and so the idea is not to predict the future, but to actually predict the effects of different types of interventions. All right, so we have a problem here in the United States, breaking out instability and everything. So what do we need to do to solve it? I don't know. And so what I think we should do is we should start building such a computational model. All right, and in the process, obviously, the first one is not going to work very well. Although, on the other hand, I had a prototype back in 2010, right, which actually did do a decent job predicting the course of general events. I had no idea about individuals, like Donald Trump, for example, but it has predicted the trends quite well, too well in many senses. So that's I'm a complexity scientist by training, and I think we should use the tools of complexity science to, rather than old and defunct ideologies, whether it's Marxian or libertarian or whatever, but actually have a public domain computational model that people can actually see how it runs. And so they can get convinced that there is actually, if you do this, then there is going to be an unintended consequence that will actually make things worse.
When you say making predictional modeling, what is the types of the scale, the type of aggregates, or is it how much deterministic versus stochastic? What do you think is a well-posed problem for this type of modeling?
Yeah, so at the polity level, the well-posed problem is that we know societies get into these end times, all right? And so there is a lot of political violence, and people get killed, and sometimes really catastrophic civil wars and things like that. So let's suppose that there is a party who wants to prevent the United States sliding into a hot civil war. What should be that party's platform?
And that's what you would calculate with the model. Basically, it's like, okay, what's the main, let's say the one main thing you could do, like this intervention?
No. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be one main thing.
I mean, the
because looking at how previous societies got out, they always use combination of things.
Okay.
So we need to do probably combination of things.
I guess it's interesting because if you take the weather analogy, we were discussing the weather analogy just earlier today, like, weather, they're good at predicting like 7 days of weather, and then they're okay or like have some decent work on predicting like what the weather will be like in general in 100 years, let's say, right? So okay, the climate is kind of going in this direction, and for the next 7 days it's going to rain on Saturday. Yeah. What's the version of that in this case? Like, can we start making trades on the stock market for next week if we have a good model, and then trying to like lay 100-year plans? Like, is that realistic? Or like, because I get, how different is the math? Like, meaning, is the underlying math of like the chaos of the weather versus the chaos of human activity? Yeah. Is it actually similar enough where you can expect a result like that, where you can model, let's say, the next month of what's happening, and then also have some, big picture answers about what will happen in 10 years or 100 years?
So I, especially right now when we are in crisis, right? Our analysis of previous societies shows that we are in highly sensitive, sensitive dependence to initial conditions. The trajectories are diverging. So even small actions of even single individual can move trajectory quite greatly. So I would not put any. I'm not particularly interested in predicting what will happen next month, or So I'm interested more in like climate situation. So with the climate, for example, we know that increasing CO2 in the atmosphere will inevitably trap more energy and increase temperature. Now, what should we do? Should we completely switch over to green energy? But what if we do that? We'll overshoot the equilibrium and end up in an ice age, which is quite likely, by the way. Right. So we need a good climate model where we could actually say that we are switching over to green energy, which is inevitable because it's simply cheaper. It's becoming cheaper, right? At what point do we stop? At what point do we want to start burning more coal? All right, because if we don't, then we'll get into another unpleasant situation. And that is all eminently doable. In our situation, unfortunately, we don't have all those laws figured out as well. Although in climatology, I don't want to overstate, because they still don't understand why the Earth went into ice ages and why ice age may or may not be in our future, all right? But still, those processes are much, much better understood. So actually, to circle back to the start of this discussion, the very first thing we need to do is to fund Cliodynamic research and bring hundreds of people from different disciplines to advance it and to test our ideas.